Welcome guys to the Stacks Builders meetup. So as you know, during the past few months, especially in the Stacks ecosystem, a lot of you builders in the call are working on various businesses and ideas just to accelerate Stacks adoption. And today we're going to feature some of the most exciting projects in the ecosystem. So we're going to have Unclemantis discussing PoX Lite, and we're also going to have Philip the Smedt for Arkadiko. And we also have Falkman, Kiki Grammatopoulos, Venu Borra, and more builders that's going to showcase some of the projects that they're actually building. And to begin with, we're going to start with Arkadiko for Philip. Philip, would you like to go and share what you've been up to, guys, for the past few months?
I can't wait. I can't wait. No, so thanks. Thanks for that. And I just want to say thanks in general to Stacks. It's really contagious to see the positive energy and just the community. It's really cool. About a month ago, I really seriously started building Arkadiko, and I'll give a demo soon, but just generally, I've been looking at DeFi for maybe, I don't know, a year and a half, let's say, with more interest. And my test generally for whether something can stake or not is whether you see a bubble, that bubble crash, and that bubble comes back. You know, you can say like Amazon in the early 2000s, it crashed completely from like $100 a share to $3, then it came back. And then the same you have with Bitcoin. I think I saw the same with DeFi. Last summer it boomed, and then it came back this year, and you see things like Avi just booming like on Ethereum. And I was like, okay, I want to build something interesting on Stacks because my friends call me a Bitcoin maximalist, fortunately or unfortunately. And so I started building on Stacks because I was like, okay, it's the one chain maybe to rule them all in terms of DeFi. And I started looking at the ecosystem, and I saw there were some pretty important primitives, DeFi primitives, in my opinion, missing. Among which is a stable coin. And so I decided to start building a crypto collateralized stable coin. In other words, you stack or you post rather collateral to mint stable coins. In this case, we accept only with Arkadiko, right? We accept only one type of collateral today, which is the Stacks token. And based on that, you mint a completely decentralized stablecoin based on the collateralization ratio. And that is the main idea. So you create vaults, and in those vaults, you save your collateral, and you can just create depth, in other words, in the system. The risk parameters, such as what should be the liquidation ratio for a vault, what should be the collateralization ratio, they're all decided upon by a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. By the way, if you have any questions, happy to answer, but if you're not really familiar with some terms, feel free to ask after I went through. But so yeah, that's the main idea. We create a stablecoin, we mint it by posting some collateral, and then we can use that stablecoin, and it literally gives liquidity in a decentralized manner that allows people to use it for multiple use cases. Really, obviously trading is an important one, but I can also imagine things like prediction markets. You need some stable value. Who is, for instance, going to win the presidential elections in 4 years, right? Maybe Trump runs again, and you want to say, I think Trump wins, but you want to have some stable, value to post and to bet on. And so that could be a use case. There's a myriad of other use cases, and I actually just submitted the grant in which I list some of the use cases, so feel free to read that as well. I know I only have 10 minutes, so let me just share my screen and dive into the demo. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, Matt, go for it.
Awesome. So little caveat, the UX is not final. There might be small bugs and things like that, but I think you'll get a pretty good sense of what I've been up to. So here you see the landing page. You can authorize with the platform by clicking Connect Wallet. I am currently on a wallet on LocalNet, so just on my mocknet, which I'm running. I just choose an account. It loads, it then authenticates, and you see basically the UI loading. Immediately, you see an overview of your own Stacks balance, the last Stacks price from an Oracle. Obviously, this is not the real life price. We are a little bit higher, which is great. But for this simulation, I use $55 cents, which comes from my own on-chain Oracle. And so here I see the stable coins that I minted, which I call XUSD. So here's my balance in XUSD. Next, you see some collateral types. As I said, the only collateral accepted today is the Stacks token, but you can imagine Bitcoin and other fungible tokens in the future being accepted as collateral. This is also done through proposals proposed through the DAO, which you see here at the top, governance. I will get to that in a minute. But so I'm first going to request some tokens from the mocknet. So I just click this. You don't really get feedback on this. There's no feedback on this yet. So I just refreshed, and now you see I get 5,000 stacks. And based on that, I can create a vault and mint stablecoin. So I click new vault, and here I see a simple form. How much stacks do I want to collateralize? And based on that collateralized, on those tokens, I can mint some stablecoin. And here on the right, you see some information. So let's say, I don't know, I want to create a vault with 1,000 stacks posted as collateral, and the maximum to mint would be 305.555. One thing I need to say is that the collateralization ratio today is still fixed in the smart contract. So in Clarity, I just use a default of 200. So whatever I fill in here today is not relevant. But imagine I fill in 300, I would get 183, which is lower than 200. So this 300 we won't get. We will get something lower again, since it's still hard coded. But I can see my liquidation price. So if the price of stacks would go under $45, my vault would get liquidated, and we would auction off the collateral, so the stacks tokens that I posted. But the current price, 55 cents, it's not that safe. I would not do this in a real life situation probably, but you could. A stability fee is basically an interest that a user pays for minting those stable coins. Just think of it as an interest based on your loan to keep the network stable. For stacks, it's 0%. I keep it at 0% for now. Liquidation ratio is what you saw here in action, which is this price versus the current price, which is 150. And then if your vault gets liquidated, you get a 13% penalty. We penalize vault users really to incentivize them to use enough collateral to debt, basically. And why do we have a relatively high penalty? That is to also disincentivize people to attack their own vaults. So imagine there's no penalty. I could start DOSing the system really by liquidating tons of vaults and then buying up my own collateral, for instance, and they could play all these kind of dirty games. So we want to disincentivize people to liquidate their own vaults, basically. Having said that, I'll just press continue. So here I see another overview. So I deposit 1,000 stacks and I get, again, this is not going to be correct, but I get 300 back approximately. So I open my vault. I get a pop-up to sign my transaction. So this is connected to the browser extension, the Stacks wallet. I call a smart contract called Freddy. There's a little bit of a joke, but Freddy is a monkey in a zoo and he manages all the vaults. And so he will manage my vault today. So I'm not sure how to fix the UX on this one yet, but this shows the collateral that I will post in microstacks. So this is the 1/1,000,000th of a token kind of thing. But I see that here. I see a sender, which is my own address, the collateral type, and the nonce and the fee. So I'm going to confirm that. And it says, okay, we successfully broadcasted that. And let's see if it worked. And voila, there it is. I'm aware that I'm actually out of time, so I'll try to wrap up in order not to steal other people's time, but just real quick. Now I have a vault with 200 collateralization to debt ratio. So I got 275 in debt that I created in the system. I can manage that now. I can, for instance, post extra collateral. Say I post 1,000 extra. I can add that as a deposit. Again, it will ask me to sign the transaction. So Freddy, my vault manager, will accept extra deposit. I can post that. Again, the UX isn't great yet. So now it broadcasts the transaction. And as you see, I I locked an extra 1,000 stacks. And since I'm over my 200 in collateralization to debt ratio, I can withdraw some, or I can mint even extra debt. So you can now play with those parameters. So in case I need the stacks again, I can draw the surplus, let's say. The protocol requires you to stay at least 200. So I can withdraw until I'm at 200. So now imagine, so I go into my terminal and I change the price of my stacks token. I'm not sure which nonce I'm at. Let's see. But imagine now the price goes to $1, which is 100 cents. And I need nonce 13. So 100. Okay, this transaction gets executed. If I refresh now, you'll see that this will have gone up. So see now the price is $1 on chain and my collateralization ratio is 727, which is way higher than before liquidation. But now imagine I go to, what is my liquidation price? 21 cents. So imagine it crashes. There's like this black swan event, the market crashes. We go to 15 cents per stacks token. And you see, oh, damn, we're at 109%. So what happens then is that what I call stackers in the protocol will look at risky vaults and they will talk to my smart contract and say, look, I found a risky vault, this should be liquidated. Liquidation doesn't happen automatically. As you see here, this is red now, collateralization is bad. So let's go and notify this vault as risky. This would happen again by some bots or whatever running in the background. So not part of the platform. So this thing between brackets is just like debug information. But let's say I notify the vault. And then it gets liquidated, it's running the auction, and then I can go check in my auction and I see, yes, most of my collateral is now being auctioned off in order to cover the debt that is bad debt, between quote, that still lives in the system. So we need to stabilize the system somehow, and we do that by selling off collateral, so stacks in this case, until we can burn those XUSD that we raise to keep the debt in balance. Maybe it's not completely clear. If you have questions about that, just let me know. Last, just wrapping up, is really short the governance. Yeah, people holding my governance token, so DECO, will be able to vote on certain parameters. That's the basic idea. I can act a quick test proposal. This proposal is a proposal to change the liquidation penalty from 13 to 15. As you see here, changes is a list of tuples. We can do multiple changes in one proposal, but I'm just gonna do one. And then you see, okay, here's a proposal, change risk parameter. As you see, this is still kind of raw in terms of UI. But yeah, change risk parameter, liquidation penalty for stacks collateral. Then people can either vote for or against. And yeah, that was a really quick overview of what I've built so far, but yeah.
Thank you so much, Philip. We're going to reserve the Q&A at the end of the call because we spare 15 minutes for it. But for the moment, we just want to get everybody's presentation. And sure. I know we're going to have so much more time later. So if you guys have questions about Arkadiko, like it's how do you actually mint those DECO tokens and how do you govern it also for like stable coins, feel free to reserve it at the end of the call. But now I would like to move on for our next builder, which is Unclemantis for PoX Lite. I think he's here. Is he here?
I'm here.
Perfect, mate. Would you like to give an introduction about PoX Lite and what you've been up to for the past few months?
Well, basically, I've been working on it for about a month. It's a basically the freehold challenge was PoX Lite, and basically throughout the course of building it, I realized it was actually available. So what happens is someone deposits stacks into the contract through a deposit function, goes into a data map, it records the low and high, that way the low and high amount ongoing, so that basically the low and high is basically the raffle ticket numbers, serial numbers you get on a raffle ticket. So that way, if the more stacks you put in, the greater your chances are of getting the award token. And sorry, a little nervous here.
It's okay, man. Go for it.
Basically, what happens is throughout the deposits function, it awards the award token, and it goes to a randomized function, and it goes to the data map for that that block, and it chooses out the random number between the lowest serial number and the highest serial number, and whichever data map or deposit it falls into the middle or wherever, it takes that that account number, that one, and it awards, it emits the token for that total amount in the block and awards it to the recipient. You can take that token and you will be able to, now you can't because there's a restraint going on. There's some kind of thing going on with the Stacks Wild Web, which is not playing right, but you will be able to take that token or as many tokens as you have and redeem them for actual stacks. Or you can trade the token to someone else as a reward or something. And you can trade back and forth like you normally would with stacks. And then, like I said, you'll be able to redeem them for stacks. It burns the token. And that's pretty much about it.
Yeah, and then thank you so much. And I included the thing on the thing where you told me like the project is 90% complete. Is there anything that the community can help you with at the moment in terms of debugging and testing PoX Lite? Because I know you also started a Telegram chat for it, and there's so many developers in the call at the moment. If there's something that you need from the community in terms of just like helping a hand, go for
Yeah,
it.
we'd love help with the redeem stinger function, which I posted in the Discord direct messages group with the 8 members.
Okay.
Where do you want me to put the GitHub link?
Yeah, you can put it in the chat box. Then I'm also gonna make a recap later. So once we end the call, I'm gonna send an email to everybody who's in the call, or just like the GitHub links of all the projects and what it is, a small blurb about it, and the recording as well tomorrow.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you guys have any questions about PoX Lite, feel free to reserve it at the end of the session together with Arkadiko. But now we can move on to Ryder. Marvin is in the call at the moment. Go for it, Marvin.
Hey there. Can everyone hear me properly?
Yep.
Bye.
All right. I see a bunch of people suddenly not. Yes, that's cool. Yeah, I'll keep it short because I'm not really the spotlight today. But yeah, as you know, I've been one of the people working on a hardware wallet for storing identities and of course also stacks transactions and all sorts of other goodies we are thinking of. You've probably seen prototype already. Wow, that's blurred out. Do you see that? Things that's background. Can I change that? There you go. Am I back to normal? There you go. There's one. See, it works. Sort of. So yeah, we've been working on that. We have sent out 10 prototypes. Some of the recipients of whom are in this call, I see Jude. Hey, Jude. And I see Jason, and I'm sure there's a bunch of others as well. There's too many pages of people here. So that's going really well. Lewis, is there anything particular you want me to comment on, or should we go straight to the main event?
You should go straight to the main event. I think it's pretty interesting on what Ryder's progress is for like the next coming months.
Yeah, we have a very exciting development in that we onboarded someone as the head of product for Ryder. So she will be designing the product and doing all sorts of things. And we're very, very excited about it. But we'll let her do the intro herself.
Hello, I'm Kiki. I'm a product designer from London. Very excited to be joining Ryder, and yeah, I previously worked in Aston Martin and Jaguar Land Rover, and I'm currently working at Ace and Tate in Amsterdam. So as a product designer, I'm very focused on human-centered design, which is why it's quite an exciting project for me to work on something so untangible such as crypto and make an actual product and a physical form and make it as cool and nice as possible. And we're going to be starting the research phase soon, so I'm very excited to meet you all and maybe catch up in a few weeks to get your insights as well as the kind of Ryder users. So very excited.
Welcome to the community, Kiki. And then is there anything that you would like to plug in when it comes to the product development of Ryder?
Anything I'd like to plug in?
Yeah, for example, on how they can get feedback or how they can get involved in the process.
Yeah, so we're going to set up, I think you can join the Discord, the Ryder Discord already. You know this probably better than me, Lewis.
Yeah, no, true. Yeah, so if you guys want to get involved in like the product development phase for Ryder, you can go get in touch with Marvin, I, or Kiki for like the Discord server for it. It's going to begin starting on April. Okay, and do you have anything else for Ryder, Marvin?
I also just want to welcome Kiki to the team. Very exciting, and you'll find that the most generous and welcoming community is the Stacks community. So I think you'll feel right at home. Very, very happy for you to be here. And like Kiki and Louis already said, we want this to be very collaborative. So she'll be heavily involved in the community and sharing thoughts. So if this intrigues you and you want to have a say in what this thing is actually going to look like, then this would be the way to do it. So invite you all to be there. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And okay, so I don't think Drew Falkman is in the call because he wanted to discuss DAOs. If not, I could pick probably Venu because Venu would like to build a DEX on Stacks. Venu, would you like to share something about it?
Well, I am currently in the research phase, unfortunately, so I don't have anything to show at this moment. Probably coming calls, I should be able to show something. So the idea is to have a decentralized exchange, Stacks essentially having capability and also bringing smart bridges, not just limited to Stacks, trying to bring all of the tokens, be it DRC or 11.721, 11.55, and also bringing the NFT feature in it. So I'm still going through the research phase, so it probably will shape up a bit. Probably a couple of weeks from now, we should have a good flow for it, and I'll share it with the community.
Perfect. Thanks, Smedt. And now we still have time. If we want to go back to Arkadiko, maybe Philip, you could go run over again on what you missed out for the presentation. And if anybody has a question for this call, feel free to drop it in the chat box. I have pre-made questions from the community that I gathered when you register, so we can discuss it later. But I think we're still early. If you want to take some more time to discuss Arkadiko, Philip, go for it.
Yeah, sure, happy to. Maybe one part that I skipped on quite quickly is the governance itself. And just to clear things out, there's two tokens in the protocol. There's one, the stablecoin, which is XUSD, and there's the governance token, which is Dico from Arkadiko. Basically, the amount of tokens that will be minted in terms of the governance token is not clear yet. I mean, it's very early, so design proposals are obviously welcome, and I'm myself still brainstorming on how exactly the governance would work. But the idea is definitely to have that DAO try to control as many things as possible, right? So any parameter that you see in the platform should ultimately be decided upon by the community or by the group that owns all the Stacks tokens. Maybe another thing that I forgot to mention or didn't really clarify is when your collateral gets auctioned, we split it up into smaller lots right now of, I think, about 200 Stacks tokens, something like that. I forgot what I put in the code, but basically there's like, say you have 1,000 Stacks in collateral, you get liquidated, then you would have one auction of 10 lots of 100 Stacks tokens each, for instance, something like that we would do in order, imagine someone puts $1 million in collateral, we cannot auction that off as one lot, just so it gets split up. If you bid the the preferred bid. So I have something called the preferred bid, which is the amount of debt that we need to raise divided by the number of lots. If you bid that amount, you immediately get the collateral assigned, things like that. I mean, these are all details, so I don't really want to dwell on them too much. But I'm not sure I went over everything a bit, but over everything really quick. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to share my screen again. Yeah.
Perfect. Now we have a lot of questions for you, and then we can move on to the Q&A now. So later I can open the floor for everybody, and maybe at like 7:45. But now I'm gonna go over some community questions that we have for Philip and Arkadiko. So first question is from me. Okay, so the biggest risk to this stablecoin model is like the volatility, right? And in this underlying use case, it's probably like SDX. So if the collateral loses too much value, the system becomes under collateralized, and then the fallback procedure could cause stablecoin liquidation. So we're personally curious if you guys are doing anything to de-risk the fluctuations.
Well, not me personally in the protocol at the moment, because ultimately the volatility and hence your liquidations are subject to the volatility of the stacks token of the underlying collateral. So in terms of controlling that, there's not really much that the protocol can control except for accepting more stable types of collateral, let's say, that are less volatile. I could see, you know, a stacks token go up to $2 a token, but then also fall back to 120 or so. I mean, that wouldn't be a surprise to anyone probably. If you compare that to Bitcoin, I mean, yeah, it can go to 100K and then fall back to 50K. I don't want to say that that's not possible either, but it's probably a bit less volatile just because there's more liquidity in Bitcoin, there's more maturity. And in terms of that, I would say if you want to have more stable vaults, almost between quotes, use a more stable type of collateral. That's my reply, I would say, to that. But really control it is, as far as I know, not possible through the protocol.
Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go over some of the questions from the chat box. So the first one is, does it make sense to build a stable coin based on Bitcoin instead of USD?
Yeah, well, I think it makes sense. It really depends what you want to peg against, right? I think the ecosystem as a whole still loves the dollar, especially traders and things like that. But I can imagine in 10 years, if Bitcoin is more widely accepted as a currency, that you just say, okay, we see that as the stable thing. Maybe the dollar is just like wordless. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a macroeconomist, so I can't really speak on what the dollar will do. But definitely it's a possibility, yeah, where you could say, hey, let's use Bitcoin to peg against. It's definitely possible as well, yeah. It will, my long answer short, I would say, depends on what the community wants, really. If you're building a product, I can have a vision, I can have an opinion, but if no one wants to use the dollar, well, then that's that. Then we use Bitcoin to peg against.
Yeah, perfect. So another question from the community is, so Arkadiko is very similar to platforms like Compound and Balancer, you know, the way how you actually do the features also with like the governance token. So we're curious, what's the difference between like Arkadiko, Compound, and Balancer?
Yeah, good question. So I have to be honest, a lot of my inspiration comes from MakerDAO. Arguably one of the biggest decentralized stablecoins that exist today. I think one that was one of the earliest and probably one of the best executed ones. I think they have traction in the Ethereum space, and that's just what I took from there. I think one big difference that I see is the stacks tokens are used as collateral, and those stacks tokens can be used to stack on the base layer of the protocol, and hence earn Bitcoin yield or yield in Bitcoin. So that's a big difference, where it inherently, when you mint stable coins, you will get a productive asset. While if you mint DAI, which is the MakerDAO stablecoin, inherently you have between quotes, a useless asset because it's not productive. The difference in Arkadiko is that you actually make money with your stablecoins while holding them. I know there's incentives in MakerDAO as well, but they're not as strong and not as low level as they are in the Stacks protocol. That's one big difference, I would say. And another thing I want to say is I do not try to reinvent the wheel. Like if something works well on Ethereum, I do think it could only work better on the most secure and most, sound money like blockchain in the world. So why reinvent the wheel, right?
True. Another difference is the fees, I think. Get it? Okay, so next question will be, because I think there's a lot of people also in the call that's trying to launch their own project in this tax ecosystem that's like token based. So for you, you also have DECO, right? The governance token. And the question is, so how do you bring liquidity to those DECO tokens? How will these tokens be accepted by other exchanges?
Yeah, I saw Peter ask that question. He kept the hard questions for me. So one type of creating liquidity is obviously through a DEX. Once we have a decentralized exchange, I could envision, our team bootstrapping it through a Uniswap like SushiSwap like platform, but then on Stacks. That's one possibility. Obviously, another possibility is doing cold hard business development, where you eventually go to centralized exchanges. But I do think that's step 5 in this process. One thing is creating good governance. Step 2 is creating an accepted token that's widespread. Step 3 is creating all that liquidity on decentralized exchange, and I think adoption follows from there. But yeah, it's a good question, and one that we also will have to figure out over time.
Okay, perfect. So I have 2 more questions for you, and then we can move for an open discussion for the other projects as well. So the next question is, we'll be curious if stacking makes it possible for loans collateralized at less than 100% since SDX collateral is interest bearing.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. I personally, I need to think about this longer, right? But first reaction, I'm not sure if I necessarily like it. I would have to do some calculations in a simple Excel sheet, what that mean and what the risk is for the end user, to be honest. I understand that you earn Bitcoin and that way you might not need the 100%, but what do you do with, so Jude asked that, right? What do you do with that interest? Do you give it to the community right away, or do you use it as extra collateral kind of thing? I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud. It's definitely a possibility. Maybe it can be an option in the protocol. Yeah, again, it's the DAO that could decide on this, right? Let's change the liquidation ratio from 150 to X if the user decides to put the Bitcoin they earn in the yield also as collateral. Something like that. Yeah, it's a great idea, actually. Food for thought.
Okay, perfect. Don't forget to note it, man. Okay, the last question for Philip is from our OG Friedger. Friedger is asking, do you see performance issue with 100 slots for auctioning on the Stacks chain?
Yeah, I have thought about this, and so what happens today, and I know this is not the perfect solution yet, but the way this is done today is it is calculated on the front end. So basically what I save in a map is the size of the auction and the number of lots. I calculate that on chain. Then I send that info back to the front end, and the front end then creates. So I never iterate on chain. I just do those iterations in the front end right now. And then I show them as lots. But essentially in my database between quotes, so on chain, I only have 2 numbers really that I fill up and save information on. So there's not really a performance hit there since we have no iterations on chain. I don't know, Friedger, if that makes sense to you, but that's how I approached it for now.
Thank you so much for answering all those questions, Philip. Okay, guys, now we're gonna open for open discussion. So if you have any questions about the speakers from today, feel free to do so. But before we do that, I would like to call on Jenny to plug in the Stacks Foundation for the grant program.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's really cool to hear about what everyone's building and to have this open meetup. Thank you, Lewis, for organizing it. I think most of you are already aware of the grants program, but I just wanted to plug it and mention that that's a really great platform to get support, not just financial, but community support as well. Philip, it's so cool to hear you handle all this Q&A. Clearly, you thought a lot about your project. You've been working on it a lot over the last month, but I saw that you just submitted your grant application. I've worked with a lot of you one-on-one, so you know that as far as like support goes and just getting advice on how to break down your milestones and scope your projects, happy to help you. If you're in like an ideation phase or if you have a project that's ready to go, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to walk you through the application process or even just the scoping process. I think that for all of your ideas, there's definitely a grant suited to what you're planning to build. Even if you think it's too big, you know, we can break it down into even smaller milestones, get the community giving you feedback, get the community giving you ideas, and we'll take it from there. So I'll message everybody my email address in the chat, but yes, please feel free to either reach out to me on email or on Discord. I'm always there answering questions too. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenny. And now is the time for open discussion. If anybody would like to jump in the conversation, feel free to do so. If not, I have a question for Philip. Philip, because I read your proposal, I think it will be nice to also explain what do you do with like the SDX that's being collateral to Arkadiko.
Yeah, there is risk to it. So there's a few possibilities. So if you post collateral, the first thing that I wanted to do is use that stacks to stack it and earn yield. The problem with that is if we would stack 100% of the collateral posted, what happens when a vault gets liquidated, right? What you cannot run an auction if that stacks is still locked up in the protocol. So there's a few things. We could delay the auction, which is probably a very bad choice, but it is a choice nonetheless. I think we could choose anything collateralized over that 200 ratio can go, you know, and be used for stacking and earn yield. But then you might question why do people put that in a vault? Well, to make their stablecoins safer and to maintain a high collateralization ratio. I saw Jude talk about stacks futures. I think that's a really good consideration as well. I think Jude, we need to we might have to speak one-on-one about that once I've given it some more thought. But seems like you have some ideas on that. But I did see your smart contracting clarity on the stacks futures, and I was curious if we could somehow leverage that indeed. So. But definitely the stacks tokens, I think, have to be used. I mean, we can't just put them in a vault and not use them since it's so powerful, right, on the proof of transfer level. So it would be a shame if we don't use that collateral to earn yields. But the exact parameters to be determined, I would say.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Is there any questions from the community members or builders in the call? You know, it can be for Philip, to Ryder, or to Unclemantis, PoX Lite. Go for it, Matt.
For Frieger, if you're here and can hear me. So for this cycle, I used your stacking pool. You know, I sent a bit of stacks, and it looks quite cool at the moment. So I'm just wondering, like, on the long term, how do you see these stacking pools like evolve, right? So if someone doesn't have the amount of stack to get a full slot, like what are the options they would have on the long term?
You mean if a pool has not enough stacks, or if a user?
Well, I guess both then, because you know, so firstly from your side, if the pool doesn't have enough stacks, but also will there be like many more guys like you? Will there be like OKCoin has sort out their issues? Will there be something maybe on Binance? Like, well, what's your thought around this long term?
I see one possibility that pools pop up to support local communities. So at the moment, it's a lot about trust between the pool admin and the stackers. So if you have local communities, you have more trust into the pool admin to manage the rewards for you. Therefore, I think there will be more pools in the future. It will be easier. We have better tools. Maybe we can even automate this. It's true that bigger pools have advantages over smaller pools because they get a better average return. So it could be possible that we have a few big pools, but then again, it's a question about trust, whether you want to do that or not. So I think we find a equilibrium between both.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think
And
Philippe, you were saying that the stacks locked up in Arkadiko would then essentially serve as a pool as well.
Yeah. Where we could either join something like Freaker's pool or do it autonomously or whatever, it's to be determined.
Yeah, the goal for me is to get rid of me as a pool admin and to have a smart contract. So that's the plan, but let's see how far we can get.
It's gonna be soon, mate. I know it. Okay, perfect. And just to add to Peter said, so Peter, there's also tons of like localized localized strategy when it comes to stacking pools. So probably in the next few months, you're gonna see Stacks Turkey have their own stacking pools, also for Korea and also for China, because Betty is also in the call. So you're gonna see tons of that. Okay, do we have any more questions for the guys today, guys? For the guys, do you have any more questions for the speakers today? No? No questions?
I knew of one more question. I just don't want to hijack the whole thing, but if there's no others, I can
go for it, mate. We still have time.
So one question that came up was, where the hell does the name Arkadiko come from? And I think that's quite funny. And Arkadiko is actually the oldest bridge on Earth ever built. So basically it's in Greece, and it was built before Christ, in the year 111 something before Christ. And I was like, we need something eternal, that represents, stability and something that will be here forever, and where we rebuild the whole financial system. And that's why I chose the name Arkadiko. And I told Peter the other day, if we launch on mainnet, we will have to go to Greece and visit the bridge and walk over it. That's kind of this commemoration, or how do you say that? But yeah, that's where the name comes from.
We see you love your history, Philip. Okay, so I'm gonna count one more time. If you guys have any question, if not, we could always probably end early because I know it's late for some other people in the call. But if not, yeah, you guys don't have any more questions, or we're good for today's Builders meetup.
To reiterate, I think Brittany just asked this in the chat too, but ways that we specifically at the Stacks Foundation can continue to support builders. If you guys have specific recommendations or resources, please let us know. We're always working on building out better support processes and programs for you all.
I maybe just have a very quick question. I think I saw the Stacks Foundation has like job openings, developer job openings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. If you look at Jude's video feed, it's an enthusiastic yes.
Okay, yeah, because I think I sent like my application last week. And don't know if you guys received it. I mean, I got some answer, but like no follow-up.
Yeah, we just opened that, so I think people who applied should hear probably in the next week or so. But yeah, that just went up.
Every application that we've received, I've replied directly to. So if you didn't get a reply, I didn't receive it. Just reach out to us at careers@stacks.org if you didn't get one. But
Yep. I actually received one from you, Mitch.
oh, great.
I was just confused with the different companies and like there's Hiko and
yeah, no, totally. So the Stacks Foundation, we're hiring. We have one open role, and then Hero is also hiring totally separate. They have several other open roles. I can't speak to those as well, but for us, we have a full stack engineer slot open.
Right. And we have one question from Poseidon. Just so you know, guys, Poseidon is a new builder in the ecosystem. So I'm going to read it out loud. And if there's anybody in the call that would like to answer it, please do. So he's asking, he's currently building a mining pool. What are people's opinion on how much a fair fee will be on profits?
As far as for the person stacking their tokens, or for the person who owns the mining pool? Maybe he's kind of asking kind of for both. But I would say personally, I mean, I come from a real estate background, so anything north of 10% is absolutely insane return for me. So I think a lot of people would be happy like keeping 10 to 15%, and then the pool keeps the rest. But that's just my opinion. I know there's some crazy rewards kind of coming out, you know, from the layers. So, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I would say, you know, 10 to 15% is really, really good, and then the owner kind of keeps the rest. But kind of curious on what everybody else thinks too.
Yeah, I also know that mining pools are awesome. I think it's great. We have some people in our community who want to participate in mining pools, but not set them up. So happy to pass along if one exists. But I've also seen where the amount of like collateral under management almost as it goes up, like the fee can go down, like as an incentive for people who maybe have a lot of tokens, maybe they pay like a lower fee, or like the community, you know, if you have 50 Bitcoin you're using to mine versus 1 Bitcoin to mine, maybe it kind of correlates the fee as an incentive to get people to be an early participate in a mining pool. So that's complexity, but I agree with the 10% is pretty standard across a lot of services in crypto.
Thanks so much for the wonderful input, Brittany. There's also a comment from Porkachu. I don't think I've met Porkachu yet, but you know, I'm gonna ping you in Discord and find out your real name. Anyways, do you guys have any more questions for today's Builders meetup?
Yeah, just a really quick question for me, just from like an investment kind of entrepreneurial kind of side of it. I'm curious, how do these organizations, like these decentralized exchanges and stuff like that, like how do they make money? I'm just kind of curious. It might be a kind of a noob question, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, how does the engineering team that created it kind of make money on it?
Anybody would like to answer that question?
I could talk. If for DEXs, there's sort of two models. There's like order book models that are similar to regular exchanges, and then there's automated market makers, AMMs, and that's like Uniswap and SushiSwap are the big ones. And the people providing there's basically a 0.3% trading fee, and that goes to the people providing liquidity. And then Sushi and perhaps Uni at some point in the future will take 0.05% of that 0.3% to go to their treasury. And then typically the people holding the Sushi token or the Uni token might be able to stake and claim some of that protocol fee. So that's how it works on Sushi today. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And that's pretty much it for today, guys, for our meetup. If you don't have any more questions, and I would like to thank everybody for chiming in today, especially to the builders who actually showcase their projects. And then everybody's in Discord, as always. If you have any more questions for the speakers and you want to do the async, go for it. And thank you, everyone. Have a nice Thursday, and I'll probably see you soon, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.